I don't know yet. Oh, did she tell you that Mrs. Stewart got me this violin? Yeah, he can be kind of scary sometimes, but he's a big softie.
Too flaming right, love.
What? What are you laughing at?
Oh, just kidding. I would throw a stone at the crows, but I don't want to push it.
Right, so it's funny when I don't get it.
Rosie, we're just kidding.
Well, I'll give you the lowdown of the music program.
Two of them to change a nappy.
We've done it, yeah.
Oh! And they still don't get it right.
Oh, and the best news is they put in an offer on property number 1 and it was accepted.
Coming up this morning, a businessman with a short fuse gets some help with his temper tantrums at 11. Raising cash for the trip of a lifetime, car booty is at 11:30. And then the hunt is on for the bargains at 12:15. That's here on BBC One.
Because you can't be together all the time. Me Too shows your little ones you're thinking of them, even when you're apart. A new series from CBeebies, bringing you together when you're apart. Weekdays at 9 or 5 on CBeebies.
Helena. Such a close call again. You must feel like a cat with 9 lives.
But just how many lives does she have left?
It's absolutely crazy.
Helena. Oh, better open it.
How do you solve a problem like Maria? Saturday at 7 on BBC One.
A patient with strange symptoms baffles the doctors at 2:05 this afternoon. But right now on BBC One, we're off to the auction.
Hello, we're both property developers and like to think we've got an eye for a bargain.
Yes, and on today's show we're going to look at properties that all have potential and they have something else in common.
They're all going to be sold at auction, so follow us today and see what happens as they go under the hammer.
Buying at auction is a really thrilling way to buy property, as long as you keep your nerve.
Absolutely. Once the hammer falls, you've exchanged contracts.
So here are the properties that are going under the hammer today.
Well, will it be the large through room or the possibility of converting the loft that tempts people to bid for this terrace in London?
In Malmesbury in Wiltshire, part of this back garden is for sale. The lucky buyer will also get an electricity pole and outline planning permission for a bungalow.
Then there are 3 whole floors of potential in Exmouth, Devon, but it could take a lot of money to make the most of this old restaurant.
All of these properties are going to auction today, and we'll find out who buys them and what they pay as they go under the hammer.
The Thames, one of Britain's great rivers, but it wasn't long ago that living close to its banks wasn't considered desirable. But how things have changed.
On a day like today, by the side of the River Thames, you can really understand why people love the idea of living in London. But my thoughts were that if you wanted to have somewhere by the river, you have to buy one of these new flats that have been built all the way along the Thames. But apparently not, because the thing that's up for auction is on a road just down there. 'Cause London is drowning out. I live by the river.
With the average Thames-side 2-bedroom flat costing £500,000, swanky riverside living certainly doesn't come cheap.
This is Winslow Road in Hammersmith, and what's up for auction is a 3-bedroomed mid-terrace. But before you get really excited about the river and the proximity to transport links and all that kind of stuff, remember, this is London, so this isn't a snip. £330,000. Sounds like a lot of money to me. Let's take a look inside.
330 grand is a lot of money for an auction property, however well positioned. I think this needs to be in pretty decent condition to get any investor excited. It doesn't look that big on the outside, but it does have 3 bedrooms, so perhaps it will be bigger inside.
Well, your third of £1,000,000 doesn't even get you somewhere that's in particularly good order, and it really is a hodgepodge of rooms with various ones leading off corridors and there's staircases all over the place. And in terms of the internal decor, well, I've got a couple of really interesting things to show you. But first of all, how about this? Somebody obviously a penchant for model boats. I guess if you bought this place, you could always put the boat out. But in terms of DIY disasters, look at this. Fantastic. Have you ever seen packing tape used as a filler before? We love that. And how about this for a fitted cupboard? Excellent for those snooker cues. But joking apart, it's a good sized space. You've got a rear sitting room there, this front sitting room area. It's obviously been knocked through. It's looking good. But one negative that I've noticed out the back. The good news is you've got a reasonable sized garden, which is always a bonus for a London property. The bad news is it's on the flight path.
Oh yes, Heathrow, the biggest airport in the country, no, Europe, is just 15 miles away. So despite that close proximity to the Thames, you're more likely to see planes than boats. But hey, that's something you'd get used to, and once inside, with modern double glazing, you wouldn't hear a thing. Probably. But it's more than double glazing that's needed in the kitchen. This is a rip out and start again job. Generally downstairs is in a pretty sorry state. Upstairs offers more space with 3 good-sized bedrooms that certainly could be improved, but they do have some potential. However, the downside is that the bathroom is only accessible through one of the bedrooms. This isn't ideal, particularly if the house is to be let out. So some thought needs to be given to the layout. I'm still struggling to see the positive side of this house. So far, it's ordinary looking, needs a fair amount of work, is under the flight path, and yet it's still guided at £330,000. I must be missing something. Time for an expert to convince me that this really is an attractive offer and one not to pass up.
Dean, thanks for joining me. Tell me a bit about this road in particular, because it's a great location, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this road is actually on the edge of what is classed as a Crabtree estate. It's a purely residential area, sort of made of a mixture of sort of Edwardian terraces and riverside developments. Yeah.
So there seems to be quite a lot of development actually going on in this immediate vicinity as well.
Yeah, there's an office block due to be built pretty soon, a Hammersmith waterfront development.
So that's got to be good news for the values of this house. What do you think about it then?
Well, it's in need of quite a lot of work. It certainly needs rewiring, replumbing, sort of various other aspects, complete modernisation all the way through.
Now, what are your thoughts in terms of its price, what it's priced at the moment? What would you say it was worth now, and if work was done on it?
I would probably say this is worth £360,000 in its current state. In good condition, you're probably looking somewhere in the region of £440,000.
Blimey, was I wrong thinking this one was a little pricey? It's rapidly looking like a bargain. And the valuation of £440,000 shows that there is a potential profit in this property. If you pick it up anywhere near the £330,000 guide price, that would leave you £100,000 to do the place up.
What about rental potential then? What would this kind of property rent out for?
As a standard 3-bed, you'd be looking at £450 per week. If you made it, obviously, send it into a 4-bedroom, then you're probably looking at closer to £550 per week.
How could you extend it into 4 bedrooms?
You could separate the double reception off, or even make a loft extension into the roof space.
Is that something you'd recommend?
I would, yes. It certainly adds value to the property in the long term.
So, for either rental or sales, this fairly undistinguished-looking house could bring some notable returns. You may need a lot of funds to buy it, but your money would be, well, as safe as houses.
Well, at first glance, this did seem like quite a lot of money, but the more you get to know about the area and the property itself and what similar properties are selling for, you realise that if somebody can get this for something like the £330,000 guide price, they've got themselves a bargain. Let's find out what happens when it goes under the hammer.
Right, lot 32 now is 29 Winslow Road, Hammersmith, London, mid-terraced house near the River Thames. So, nice location. You overlook the park opposite. Who would like to bid on this? Where do you want to start? How much? 3? Oh, OK, you're here and you bid. 300,000 on my right, sitting down. 305 anywhere. 305, 310. 310, 315, 320, 325, 330, 335, 340, 345, 350, 355, 355, 360, 365, 366, 365. Anyone else? 365, 366, another go. 365, first time, second time, third and last time at 366, nearly, 367, 368. It's worth it, 368. 367, first time, second time, third and last time. Have you all done? Sold 367, well done. Got there in the end.
For £367,000, the new owner is Richard. He's married and has a 15-month-old baby daughter. He bought the house in Winslow Road as a new family home.
So, into your lounge.
Indeed, yes.
Does that sound a bit strange?
It does now. What have we done?
but congratulations. No, I mean, you say that. I mean, are you a bit concerned about what you've bought?
Well, we know we've got a big project ahead of us, so we did know that, but obviously now we're into the realisation of picking up the keys. It's all sort of come to a head, really.
You've obviously had a look at it beforehand, did you?
Absolutely.
What was it that really made you think, yes, this is a good one to go for?
Basically, there's a lot of space in this house. It's 3 bedrooms. It's got great potential for the loft. Also, with the garden outside, it's comparatively big compared with other gardens on sort of similar streets. So it's got all the fundamentals that we wanted. As well as that, there's the park just outside there, and the river is about 100 yards away.
In lots of ways, you bought almost like the scrappiest house on the street, haven't you?
Yeah,
which is always a good thing to do.
That's the intention. So, yeah, we'll hopefully turn it into the nicest house in the street.
London prices are amazing. Richard's paid £367,000 for the worst house in the street, not the best. So, what are his plans to transform it from the runt of the litter into the top dog?
Basically, with the ground floor, the room that we're in now, we'll be putting a kitchen into this part of the room.
A kitchen in here?
A kitchen in here, which is not what's normally done in traditional front rooms. However, what we've found is that with a kitchen in here, it frees up the back part of the room to then have a dining area.
That's really thinking outside the box in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's something we are pretty sure will work, especially with my wife having a toddler around. She can then be in the kitchen. The baby can be playing in this area. The traditional kitchens in these houses are very small, so you just don't have the room to do that, but using this area will give us that room. Other things we're intending to do is convert the loft. A lot of the other houses along the street have had them converted. Planning Commission, touch wood, shouldn't be a problem, as the precedent's set.
So creating then a 4-bedroom house?
Indeed, yeah.
How much is the loft conversion going to be, do you know?
They're coming in at around 30 to 35,000.
Really?
Yeah.
Not cheap then.
They're not cheap.
Is that London prices?
That's London prices. That's probably because they know how much square footage they can add to a property, and hence its value.
London builders aren't daft, are they? £35,000 on a loft conversion. In some areas of the country, you could do this entire renovation plus a loft conversion to a really high standard and still have 10,000 quid left in your pocket. But then again, you wouldn't add the same level of value.
So what about timescales and budgets for all your planning?
Total time, I'd say 3 months. 3 to 4, perhaps, by the time we move in.
And money?
Money, we're probably going to be looking at the 60 to 70 mark, which will include doing the roof It's important for us to get more space into the house, and to do the loft conversion now is going to be quite important as we're ripping the place to bits. Then we might as well have all the mess and all the problems with the loft done and dusted.
So 3 months' time we should see you all in?
Fingers crossed.
One last question, what about the boat? Are you going to keep the boat?
I think that might go on eBay.
The fitted furniture?
You're welcome to it.
Well, I can't fit it in my car, but thank you for the offer. No, congratulations.
Thank
It's
you.
a lovely end to the story.
Thank you very
Nice
much.
to meet you.
Ah, well, Richard has £70,000 to spend on the house and a clear idea of what he wants to do. Let's hope the sky's the limit for him. We'll find out later in the show how he gets on.
We've come to Wiltshire for our next property. Not quite in the countryside, but in the small town of Malmesbury.
Auctions are a great way to sell awkward or unusual properties. So when a piece of somebody's back garden came up for sale, I wasn't at all surprised. It's lot 3, it's got a guide price of just £60,000 and it's got planning permission to build a detached bungalow. I'm going to have a little dig around.
So it's a double offering here. Not only is the house going to auction, but will any prospective bidder also be tempted to bid for the other lot, which is the garden at the back?
The thing that first strikes me about this plot of land is how overlooked you are from the guy who's actually selling off his back garden, the neighbouring property and the secondary school just here. Now, it really feels as though we should just have a swing and a slide and a sand pit here. I can't imagine a brand new detached bungalow being erected on this plot. It just doesn't feel big enough. But on a more positive note, you are set back from the road, so there's no traffic noise.
The plot of land comes with outline planning permission for a single-storey building, but it will be a tight squeeze. I've paced out the plot and it's about 13 metres by 24, so there won't be much garden left round the outside of any development. Access to both the new development and the remaining part of the existing property's garden would be at the side of the house. Well, I hope anyone tempted by this plot of land at auction will do their homework and work out exactly where their boundaries end.
My tip is, when you're buying at auction, always read the legal pack first. Now, in this instance, the prospective purchaser is expected to pay £2,289 for the removal of that electricity pole.
And that pole could come as a nasty shock if you haven't read the legal pack. To find out what sort of interest there's likely to be for this plot of land, I've invited along a local expert. What might tempt someone to buy this plot of land and live in this town?
Well, Malmesbury is a very old historic market town, very thriving market town with lots of little pubs, loads of independent small shops, based on the sort of southern edge of the Cotswolds in North Wiltshire, not far from Bath and Swindon.
Let's talk about this plot of land that's up for auction. Tell me a bit about the history.
Okay, the owner of the property came into us for valuation with quite a reasonable garden on the back. We came out, thought there was potential maybe of getting a plot in the back garden, went through planning. A year later, here we are, selling the property and the plot separately.
So you, the auctioneers, suggested to sell part of the garden off?
Yes.
Now, it's got a guide price of £60,000. Who do you think would possibly want to buy a plot of land like that at auction?
I think it's going to be your sort of small builder who's only got the odd, one job going on at a time, so he's finished one, he's on to the next one, hasn't got great funds, or maybe someone just starting up and getting into the business.
I just wonder whether the buyer of the house will also be tempted to buy the separate plot of land to prevent development, or maybe a neighbour with some spare cash would be tempted to buy it to stop a development spoiling their view.
How much do you think this will reach at auction?
So we've got a guide price of 60,000 plus, so something around 60, maybe hopefully a little bit more.
Charlie, I know this plot of land comes with outline planning permission. How difficult would it be for the new purchasers to perhaps change that?
It wouldn't be easy. It's quite a sensitive plot. We did originally put in for a two-storey dwelling. This was rejected, so we had to compromise on a single-storey dwelling instead. There may be a possibility of going up into the roof or trying again for a two-storey, but I thought it was probably quite unlikely.
So if you picked up this plot of land for £60,000 and added on some building costs, how much could the bungalow be worth?
I mean, conservatively, we're sort of thinking somewhere in the region of, 160 to maybe 170,000.
So there's still some money to be earned?
There's definitely some money to be made there, yeah.
There's some profit in that?
Yeah.
I'm still concerned whether there is enough space to squeeze a bungalow onto this plot of land. And with the electricity pole and the access issues, I don't think this is going to be for the faint-hearted. But of course, plots of land don't come up that often.
When you're looking to purchase property, you rarely tick all the boxes. But when you're buying a plot of land with planning permission, you can build your own dream home that's uniquely created for you. Now, whether or not this is in the right location, that remains to be seen. Let's see what happens when it goes to auction.
Number 3 is the building plot to the rear of 52 Corn Gastons. Generally speaking, we find that plots do sell well at auction. It's probably not of interest to big developers. It's more likely to be of interest to a self-build or possibly the small builders. Don't come very often close to the centre of Malmesbury. Planning permission for a single-storey dwelling. Start with the guide, somebody 60,000. £60,000, somebody selling number 3. 60,000. You put me in, I can't start without you. 55 then if you like. 50 then somebody. It's cheap enough, isn't it? £50,000 going on single plot at 50 someone. Yes, at £50,000, okay to the hand at 52. I'll take to get on at £50,000. 2 someone at £50,000. 2 anyone? At £50,000, 52, 54 at the back, 54, 6 now MSA. At £54,000, I'll take 6 if you like, 56, now 8 if you will. At £56,000, get you in front of me at 56. 58 anyone? At £56,000. 57 anyone? 57. At £57,000, the bid is down there. Your bids are at 57. Now 8 MSA, 58, 58, back to you, 59 sir. 59, at £59,000, now 60 MSA. At £59,000, the bid is on the right-hand side at 59. 60 I'll take for anyone? Yes or no, otherwise the £59,000 then for the first time. It's going to be sold. £59,000 then for the second time. Yes or no, £59,000 down there, third and last time. Your bid, sir. Your number is 26. There we are.
The successful bidders who paid £59,000 are husband and wife team John and Sheila. They both teach economics and business studies, so you would have expected them to be delighted to get the plot of land for £1,000 under the guide price.
Watching you guys at auction, you didn't seem that excited when the hammer went down. Why was that?
Well, I suppose because we've been at auctions before, similar thing, and it really not happened. We've been a bit disappointed, just fallen a bit short of the asking price, and so is inbuilt resistance really to that disappointment again. But this time it happened.
And are you happy with the price you paid? £1,000 under the guide price, 59.
Yes, we were surprised, weren't we?
Yes, very much surprised, because we've done a bit of research, and it seemed to be that when properties did sell, they'd gone for perhaps a premium of 20 or 25%, and so we're quite content, yes.
John, how much would you have paid for this plot?
Well, we'd have been prepared to go up to 70,000, so you can imagine we were quite satisfied with the outcome.
But there is the added charge of £2,000 to move the electricity pole. Were they aware of that?
Did you read the legal pack?
Yes, although it did arrive a little bit late, and so it's a bit of rather rapid reading. It arrived the day before.
Yes, of course, we didn't realise till we got the pack that that we were the ones who would have to pay to move it, but it was fine.
The plot of land has been sold with outline planning permission, meaning that John and Sheila could build a detached bungalow, but they're hoping to squeeze a lot more onto the land.
Well, yes, we know that that's the backstop is that we can build a single-storey dwelling. But what we might do is to be prepared to see what we can do a little bit beyond that. Maybe go to second storey, 1.5 stories, you might say, perhaps chalet bungalow, maybe.
With only outline planning permission, they will have to apply for full permission for either of their options. But even a single-storey development will require a lot of knowledge if they're to build it completely from scratch.
Now, how much experience do you two have with building properties from scratch?
None at all.
Does that frighten you a little?
A little bit, although we've had some involvement in the past. But we've been involved in property for the last few years now, since eldest son went to university, and we've done a little bit of refurbishments and so on, but this is a quantum leap again beyond that, so yes, it's new territory for us.
John and Sheila have been investing in properties for over 8 years, but this is their first greenfield development, so they called in the experts.
We started by having a couple of architects, designers in to have a look, and so we're sort of starting to think about the design.
So what did the architects say when they came onto the site?
Well, I think they're generally supportive. They're quite pleased, you know, when they got inside to realise that there's quite as much land as there is. It's not a massive site, but they seem to be fairly optimistic.
The plot's about 13.5 metres wide and 24 metres deep. Although it's overlooked by neighbouring properties and the local school, it could well turn out to be the perfect home from home for Sheila.
Well, I've taught at the school here for nearly about 19 years, and all our family came to school here, and I taught all of them, in fact, in the sixth form.
So you know this plot of land and this area better than anybody?
Probably, yes.
Top marks for location then. At home time, Sheila can just hop over the fence and she's there.
Is there anything that you're worried about, both of you?
Well, I suppose ultimately, it's clearly the budget, because that's a finite, it must work out. We've done some sums, and at about 130,000 we'll get a single-storey dwelling. If we develop, as we think we might, into the roof space, then that will climb a little bit, probably towards 170,000, thereabouts. The details to be filled in yet.
What are your plans with the property once it's been built?
Well, we want to sell it on there. We won't live in it ourselves. It's actually a development opportunity for us, and so we'll sell on to an appropriate part of the market.
And for John, the well-established garden surrounding this infill could be a good selling point.
It's a fairly mature area. There are nice trees, well-developed trees and so on, plants. And so for somebody who eventually lives here, it'll be not a bad little situation. It's fairly quiet, peaceful and pleasant place to live in.
So how long do you think this will take you, this whole project, from start to finish?
Well, really, I suppose now it'd probably take about 8 or 9 months at the very least, I would think.
We'll be coming back later in the programme. By then, John and Sheila might well have the planning permission to add that extra floor to their bungalow, and we'll discover where they finally end up putting that electricity pole.
Coming up, the best advice for this old Italian restaurant in Devon would be to get a skip, clear out the rubbish and develop.
Back in Wiltshire, has this powerful building plot behind this property managed to squeeze in a bungalow? Or has it had a nasty shock?
But first, we're returning to Hammersmith in West London, where we hope the kitchen of this mid-terrace now overlooks its front garden. Just 100 yards from the River Thames near Hammersmith, a 3-bedroom terraced house was bought by Richard for £367,000. And he had some plans to change the layout radically.
Basically, with the ground floor, the room that we're in now, we'll be putting a kitchen into this part of the room.
A kitchen in here?
A kitchen in here, which is not what's normally done in traditional front rooms.
So, nearly 7 months on, has Richard transformed this house from bottom to top? Well, the scaffolding's gone up on the outside, so from the front, it's looking promising. At the back, the garden's been cleared, and it's a good-sized plot. And inside, there have been some dramatic changes.
If we start upstairs, what we've done is the bathroom as you've got it here, this used to be at the back of the house. Therefore, you had to actually walk through a bedroom to get into the bathroom. By bringing this forward, it means that all of the bedrooms can have access to this bathroom.
Where the old bathroom was, there's now a great children's bedroom. And that new bathroom and corridor now occupies what was the 3rd bedroom.
And the front bedroom, we've more or less just stripped that out, put built-in cupboards in there. Middle bedroom, we've put in shelving.
Those 2 good-sized bedrooms and the new children's bedroom will soon be joined by a loft conversion, making this an impressive 4-bedroomed house.
Then, of course, downstairs, we've taken the kitchen from the back of the house and brought it into the front of the house to create more of a family kitchen diner area.
But let's look at that radical kitchen area. It's not a very conventional layout.
The previous kitchen was at the back of the house. We've actually moved that to the front of the house. So here, this was the original, say, double reception room. And the purpose of this whole area is so that the kitchen virtually just merges into the wall. The other area down here is an area where we can sit in the evenings, watch TV, and also where the baby can play. Where the kitchen used to be, now that's actually created quite a nice large room which opens out into the garden. That will be a sort of child-free zone, so a dining room if needs be, or perhaps even a second lounge.
This area works really well. It's open, bright and is well finished. Who would have thought it? A kitchen in the front room.
We're very pleased with how the kitchen dining room area works. The whole purpose of that was so that we could watch TV whilst cooking food, also so that my daughter can play in the one area whilst we're in the other area.
This seems to me to be a great solution to what was a tricky layout. The advantage being that the parents can watch what their young daughter is up to while they're cooking or relaxing. But having a toddler around must have disrupted the project.
We've renovated properties before and we've been able to live there, but obviously we didn't have a little girl to oversee the project, if you like. Fortunately, my wife's parents live abroad, so my wife and child have been able to go out there whilst the major dirty, dusty work has been taking place.
Well, they've all moved in now, and even when the planned loft extension takes place, there'll be some areas in the house where they can find sanctuary from the mess. But how much has it all cost to get this far?
The original budget, I think we were working to about 70,000 to renovate and include the loft conversion. We've been able to get a price which was slightly less for the loft conversion, though that hasn't taken place yet. About on target with the budget, though.
That £60,000 to £70,000 spend will take their total outlay to around the £440,000 mark, but Richard sees this as a worthwhile investment.
I think we have taken probably one of the worst houses in the street, and by the time it's finished, it will be the best house in the street.
But will two local agents agree with Richard's view? Or perhaps they'll see it slightly differently? Time to find out.
I mean, it's certainly got a homely feel to it now, a vast improvement on the last time I saw it. Although it's not quite finished yet, it's certainly going to be a nice family home.
This is quite a typical house for the area. It's been done up the last few months to quite a good standard throughout.
It's unusual in the way that it's laid out, but it's actually quite unique. I think the finish that they've achieved here is very good, and it works very well.
The selling point is it's quite close to the underground. It's obviously got the park in front of it, so it's got a nice open space and light. Also, it's benefiting from a south-facing garden.
Good location, imaginative layout. But is it a sound investment at £440,000?
I would expect to achieve $430,000 in its current condition. If when the works are finished, and it's to the same standard that the rest of the property is, I would anticipate somewhere closer to £445,000 to £450,000.
As it stands, the property, we're looking about £425,000 to £435,000. Once it's finished, I think we'll be looking at £450,000 to £455,000.
Possibly a little bit lower than I would imagined. The reason why we've done the work to the house is so that it can be a family home, so current resale values don't really affect me. Because we want to live in it.
Short term, there may not be much profit, but as Richard said, it's their home, not a property development venture. In the long term, he should see some return on his money for this pad by the river.
The project, it will be great once it's finished, but we know that we've still got to go through that 2 to 3 month period of unrest before it is absolutely what we wanted.
Well, it may have taken 7 months to get to this stage, and there's a little way to go yet, but they're nearly there. When the hard work's done, Richard's daughter will have a lovely garden to play in, and they can all enjoy meals in the kitchen at the front of the house. What could be better than living by the sea, surrounded by sandy beaches and beautiful coastline? Often that comes at a price of having to be off the beaten track, but not always.
Exmouth's got the best of all worlds, really. You've got the beautiful Devon countryside, a World Heritage coastline and a lively town centre.
The beaches are a great attraction, not just for the local surfers, but for hundreds of holiday makers. So, finding places to buy here can be difficult.
The good news is that the high street's just there at the bottom of this road, and the property we've come to look at is just a stone's throw away. In fact, it's just here. Up until 7 years ago, apparently this was a really good Italian restaurant, but since that time, it's obviously been used as a family home, and to be honest, it's in a right old state. But you do get a lot of property for your money. £95,000 guide price gets you 4 bedrooms upstairs and this downstairs. You've got the front room there, into this rear area. Yes, it's in a mess. Not particularly attractive, bit of damp going on there, but a good sized space leading through to the rear of the property. Now this is where it starts getting a bit weird, because what you can't see is above this false ceiling here, there is in fact a kind of corrugated roof. So this is obviously an extension. I'm just trying to figure out the whole layout. Very, very odd. You've got a concrete floor, obviously no damp. And through here is some kind of kitchen. So all in all, it's a bit of an odd layout and it's definitely going to need a bit of thinking about.
This is a renovation project that needs a well thought through plan, and quite a sizable one at that. Looking at the space, it was probably a house before it was a restaurant, so it should be possible to return it to residential status, but you do need to apply for change of use. Covering 3 floors, it has a variety of rooms, from bathrooms to bedrooms, but at present it's quite hard to see past its dilapidated state.
One thing I really like about this place is that it's on 3 floors. So naturally that lends itself to conversion into maybe 3 flats. Big size one on the ground, good size one on the middle floor and another good size one up here. Alternatively, you could keep the ground floor as a commercial unit and have 2 flats above it, or maybe the ground floor as a flat and this converted into kind of a duplex. What you've got basically is loads of flexibility and we like that.
Clearly, from an investment point of view, flats will offer the best option. 3 paying customers on 1 down payment. And if it's converted into flats, the fact that there's no garden won't come into play, so I think this could be the recipe for success here. But how palatable would that be in Exmouth? I asked a local agent what he would do with it.
The way it's laid out, one thing that I would possibly do is convert the ground floor, because there's plenty of space down there, into a 2-bed self-contained flat, and the top 2 floors I would look to have as a 2-bed, 2-storey maisonette.
What would a flat or duplex like you're talking about, what would that bring in somebody here?
Just from a rental point of view, a 2-bed flat bang in the middle of Exmouth here would probably bring in 600 a month plus. And possibly a maisonette, £50 more than that, so maybe £650 a month.
And what about the actual costs? So if someone was to do it up, what would they sell for?
It depends, again, to what specification they're looking to finish it to. I would have thought a 2-bed flat would probably fetch about 110 to 120. Currently, and a 2-bed maisonette, 2-storey, this close to town would fetch between 130 and 140. So combined, you're probably looking at 250.
So that £95,000 guide price is looking pretty good if you could get at least 2 properties here. Even £100,000 spent on conversion would leave a healthy profit.
Well, I have to say, something like this, so close to the centre of Exmouth, with that guide price of 95,000 quid, sounds like a bit of a bargain to me. Let's go to the auction.
OK, 25 Albion Street, Exmouth. It's fairly naff inside, but more untidy than horrible. Mid-terrace, 3-storey, currently 4-bedroom property. It's for sale because my client, Lucky Soul, has emigrated to Spain. And it's going to make £100,000 all day long, isn't it? You're here to spend 100 for a start. Thank you, 100 I've got. Wait, 100, I've got 100. At 100, I've got 100. 101 already. Yes, OK, 101, 102, 102, 102, 102, 103, 4, 104, 5, and 6. At 106, at 106, at 106. We have 7. I see it. Thanks, 107. At 107, at 107, 108, 109, 109 and a half. At 109 and a half. Second row in. At 109 and a half then. At 109 and a half. At 109 and a half, first time. To be sold. At 109 and a half, second time. At 109 and a half, you're sure and done, it's the last chance. At 109,500. Sir, yours. Well done.
And for that £109,500, the new owners are Steve and Chris. They decided that the old restaurant in Albion Street was the perfect starter dish to begin property development. So, what's first on the menu?
Chris, congratulations.
Thank you.
Lovely to meet you. Why did you want to buy this place?
Well, it seemed like a good idea. I've got a few other property interests. When we first looked at this, I saw other properties had sold in the area. I worked out what the market was. It seemed to be low-cost housing. And I thought I could probably make at least 2 flats out of this, probably 3.
You sound like a man who's done his research.
Did a fair bit of research for this, yeah.
What did you do exactly?
Well, first of all, we wanted to make sure the property wasn't actually falling down. So we got a surveyor to come along. That wasn't too bad. So we thought, OK, well, what's this, solicitor going to tell us? Because there were searches on the property. So, again, flying freehold, that caused a bit of panic, but apparently that's not too bad either.
A flying freehold means that part of the property you own is literally flying over the land below it, which belongs to somebody else.
And then we researched the market, basically. We looked at what was selling in the area, what the new builds were like, what sort of the formats were, and we came to a conclusion that, yeah, this would work.
I'm very proud of you. This sounds like a very thorough checkbox sort of approach to buying property.
I'm a project manager by trade, so therefore, it's risk analysis, I think it's called.
It cost Chris around £500 to get all those checks done on a property that he might not have been able to buy, but I think it was money well spent. When a building's in this state, you want to be sure of your facts when you're spending over £100,000, particularly when it's not just your money.
Well, this is a bit of a consortium, really. My wife Lynn's also involved here and 2 children. I'm also doing this with my business partner, Steve, and his wife, Helen. So there's 4 of us involved, basically.
So have you all sort of financially contributed and...?
Yeah, it's a 50-50 deal.
Well, that halves the risk and the workload, which may be essential. Both Chris and Steve have full-time jobs and a family to keep them busy, along with this not insignificant little project. But have they used all their combined skills to work out the best way to utilise the space here?
I think what we're going to do is we're going to have 3 separate units here. The ground floor is going to be a two-bedroom apartment. The first floor will be a 1-bedroom apartment, as will the third floor. However, I'm thinking with the 3rd floor, maybe we can go up into the roof and possibly make that a second sort of room up there, maybe bedroom or whatever. So it's going to be along those lines. It involves an extension to the rear of the property, and that will go right the way up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it wasn't originally the plan. Initially, when I came in, I thought I'd just make it 2 units, downstairs flat and an upstairs maisonette. But I think there's going to be more value in doing 3 separate units.
Quite a lot more money to build a 2-storey extension of that.
There is, yeah, a lot more risk. At first, I thought keep it simple, and yes, first refurbishment, keep it simple. But I don't know. I think the more we learn, the more we think, yeah, three apartments will work. So let's go for it.
So do you have any idea of sort of budgets for this whole project?
Well, I think we've in principle we've got planning permission for the extension, which is going to go right the way up. Which that in itself is going to cost around about 70k. So all the rest of the work we've got to do, I suspect we're probably going to be in the region of 100k to refurbish this place in the manner we want to do it.
That appears to be a large outlay, but with potentially 3 flats worth at least £120,000 each, a £360,000 return on a total spend of 210 looks like a pretty good margin to me.
And then a bigger picture kind of idea of what you're going to do with it. Are you going to keep them or sell them or what?
Well, personally, I've always wanted to buy accommodation for my children. And basically, that would pay their university fees and they'll have a place to live when they get older. I think Steve's thinking of selling at the moment, but he's open-minded. You know, he might let as well. See how it goes.
What would you do if you came to a situation where you wanted to let them out and he wanted to sell them?
Well, there are 3 apartments there. I mean, I could keep 1 or 2. We'll come to some financial arrangement so that, you know, he sold one of his, and I bought part of his off him or something of that nature. We'll see when we get there, basically.
You don't see that being a problem?
We'll come to an amicable arrangement there, yeah.
Well, let's hope that Chris and Steve's relationship stays the course and the extension to this old restaurant doesn't make a meal out of this renovation. We'll be back later in the show to find out.
It's been a few months now since our properties were bought.
So, has work started? Is there even a finished property to see?
Or is it one big disaster?
Let's go back and find out.
We're back in the historic Wiltshire town of Malmesbury. But it wasn't property that we'd come to see, it was land.
The land of make-believe.
A plot of land at the back of this property was sold at auction for $59,000. It had outline planning permission for a bungalow, but local teachers John and Sheila were hoping to go up in the world and squeeze a 2-storey property onto the plot. Well, 3 months later, and the garden looks just the same. True, the electricity pole has been moved, but there's no sign of any work starting on that bungalow. And I'm concerned. John said he'd explain what happened over a coffee at his house. Well, at least this is a bungalow. What's gone wrong then?
Well, problems of a bureaucratic kind, really. We have a dispute about the dimensions of the land. The dimensions described in the public catalogue proved to be, well, a disputed measurement, shall we say, and there are plans that we had which don't agree between them, so there's a bit of a problem with that.
John thought that he'd bought a 24-metre-long piece of Wiltshire at the back of the house, but the lie of the land turned out to be quite different.
Well, originally, the land we thought we bought actually came up to this post here, so just about to see a red mark when I'd put the original mark. But my neighbour, who owns the rest of the plot and the house and the road frontage, thinks that this is the boundary of his land. So we're in some sort of dispute at the moment as to where the boundary of the land is. And it represents around about 1/6 of the land in total, so it's significant.
It certainly is. It was going to be a squeeze to get much of a house on this plot as it was, and now it's 4 metres shorter. The initial plans were put on hold, then Sheila came up with a plan to try and get a bit more land.
We're hoping to buy the drive which is alongside of the house, which was an access to the school that's behind us. If we're able to buy that land, and we are in negotiation for that, it will allow us our own separate access, so we won't need to use access over the piece of land at the side of the house that's on the plot.
That represents probably another 13 to 15 feet width, and we're grinding through the process there with the appropriate authorities, getting permissions and so on, seeing how much it will cost, and we hope to get an answer to that fairly shortly.
Currently, the access route to their plot is via a strip of land next to the house. If they manage to buy up the pathway, they might be able to do a deal and get back those missing 4 metres.
If we're able to buy this part at the side here, we will try and negotiate with the owner of the house to give him back effectively what's the access to our land now at the side of his house. He can have then a wider garden, and hopefully perhaps we can then negotiate for him to give us back a bit of what we thought was ours to start with.
On the positive side, we're trying to make more of the development that we have.
We had some plans drawn up originally for a single dwelling, but since that we decided that really 2 houses, a semi-detached pair, would be much better use of the land.
Now the equation for economics teachers John and Sheila is to work out how to get 2 houses onto 1 plot.
The drive, assuming we're able to get this extra piece of land, the drive will come in over here and so into the front of the houses here. The services actually run down the edge of the existing plot, so we've got to build 9 feet this side of them anyway, so we can't actually build on that land now, but it will give us extra parking and allow a nicer outlook at the front of the houses.
there is still only outline planning permission for a bungalow, and John and Sheila are hoping to add a second floor plus a second property. To find out if it is feasible to build 2 properties on this plot, I've invited along a couple of local experts.
Getting permission for 2 semis is likely to be difficult. The planning authority are likely to look at the surrounding area and see that access is going to be restricted.
When we first took the plot on, we went for planning for a detached house, which was turned down by the local planners. So I'd say, you know, a bungalow is probably its best bet.
It's not the best of plots as they go in Malmesbury. It's not necessarily the most desirable of locations.
It's a very tight plot for a pair of semis. You're not going to have much garden space there, so it's not really going to be much of a family home.
When it comes to the finish, I would advise that they go for a simple, clean, fairly neutral finish. Doesn't need to be high spec because the final sale price of the house wouldn't warrant that.
With no planning permission, I can't help thinking it's a bit academic. But how much could our teachers' properties be worth if they were ever built?
2 3-bedroom semis on this plot. It's quite a tight plot, so I would imagine they'd be something in the region of 160,000 each.
I would value a semi-detached house here at a guide of around £155,000.
The application for a 2-storey property has already been turned down, so it looks like a bungalow or nothing. How much could it be worth?
I think a bungalow on this plot would be something around the region of 160, maybe 170.
Bungalow, I would suggest, would go for in the region of 140 to 150.
Do those sums add up?
Yes, I think so, and I think it shows for me that the 2 semi-detached houses is probably the solution to go for.
Having paid $59,000, John and Sheila still have a lot of loose ends to tie up here before any building can start.
You should expect problems. Nothing's going to be that easy in life. Otherwise, everybody would be doing it, wouldn't they, really?
I think we felt a bit frustrated at times, but we try to be fairly philosophical about it and just live in hope it'll all work out in the long run.
Well, I hope so, whatever the final building turns out to be.
We're back in Exmouth in Devon now, where there was a planned sea change for an old Italian restaurant that was bought for £109,500 by business partners Steve and Chris.
$109,500. Sir, look, well done. Congratulations.
They hope to convert the old Italian restaurant into 3 apartments and build an extension at the rear. They'd carefully planned how they were going to do the big job and out to make some money. 3 months later, we've come back to check on with the progress of this Italian job. Have they got away with it? Well, not quite the clean getaway I was hoping for. It looks like we've caught them in the middle of the job. And it's not just the doors that have been blown off. The walls and the floors have been dealt with too, but there's still lots to do. What stage are they at now?
We've put in for planning permission, and we've had a bit of a shock with that, because they rejected it. Now, the reasons for that were the materials we're using on the windows and the shop front. Now, with the windows, we wanted to use PVC for the sash windows. And the conservation officer said, no, I want wood, which is fine. No problem with that. And for the shop front, we were planning to just raise it, really, so it looked a little bit more residential. And basically said, nope. Well, he didn't say no exactly. He said, well, you can raise it, but I want the original PVC sill as it was.
Chris and his business partner Steve had no real problems with these changes, but they didn't know about them until after planning had been submitted. This was a little bit frustrating because it meant a rejection and then having to resubmit another planning application with a potential 3-month wait. But what was that application for?
We were looking for 3 2-bedroom flats, and initially we were wondering whether we could actually fit that into this sort of type of building. But the architect looked at it, measured up, and said, yep, we can fit 2 bedrooms in with a bathroom, kitchen, lounge area, no problem.
How was that going to work?
Well, this is going to be a sitting area, come lounge. We're then going into a kitchen sort of area and bathroom, and at the back of this ground floor flat there'll be 2 bedrooms. And the layout of the other 2 flats follow pretty much in a similar sort of manner.
They really are utilising this awkward space well and at the same time maximising their possible returns, though it does still hang on planning. But that hasn't stopped Chris and business partner Steve cracking on.
I've got a warm feeling that we're going to get planning permission. Had we not had that warm feeling, I don't think we would have taken a calculated risk in putting foundations down for our extension. It might still turn out to be an expensive patio, but that's the risk we decided to take.
Starting a project before planning has been approved is a calculated risk. It should save some time, and it's better than just sitting around waiting.
Hit me! Hit me! Hit me!
As regarding the figures, we bought the property for 110. I think we're going to spend around about another 110,000 on it.
So that's a total of around £220,000. So financially a large commitment. It could be a while before Chris and Steve see anything back.
Initially, we thought this project would take 3 to 6 months, more bordering on the 6-month side. With the wealth of experience we've gained, I think we're looking more towards 9 months.
9 months is a serious time commitment. With Steve giving up a job to do this, there need to be some pretty decent returns to prevent Chris and Steve's first project becoming their last. To discover if their plans could unlock the potential here, I've invited along a couple of local experts.
Having had a look at the plans, the only downsides possibly will be the size of the bathrooms. A lot of them may turn out to be shower rooms.
Well, I think the size of the rooms, bearing in mind that we are quite central to the town here, are very good. Being an older building, the heights of the ceilings by their nature are high too, so there are differences to these particular flats that we don't often see this close to the town centre.
I would expect these flats to sell quickly. I think there are 2 clear marketplaces, investment buyers and first-time buyers.
Well, encouraging noises, but what does that mean money-wise for the 3 flats?
The ground floor flat has a small courtyard garden that might fetch a little bit more, but on average I'd say around the £110,000.
When finished, the valuation I would put on these flats is £105,000 to £110,000 for each flat.
That sort of money would see Steve and Chris make around £110,000 profit if all goes to plan, so that's good news surely.
That's excellent because I was budgeting around about £100,000 per flat. So yeah, 3 flats, 10,000 extra, 30,000. Brilliant. Yeah, very pleased with that.
Depending on the finances, Chris and Steve had different views on whether to rent or sell. So how do the rental numbers stack up?
Each flat should secure something in the region of £525 per calendar month.
I would expect each flat to achieve about £500 per calendar month.
That's good. In the ballpark that I thought it would be, but yeah, it's good to have that confirmation. That's the sort of figure we can get. Yeah, so very, very pleased with that.
That would bring in a modest income of just over £6,000 a year. But long term, each flat would probably pay for itself in 15 to 20 years.
I'm still very, very optimistic about the project. When we set out for this, we all said it's not going to fail, we will succeed. And we still got that mentality, we'll just make it work.
Well, if they succeed here, I don't think they'll be daunted by any other projects that come their way. And if they get that planning permission for their 3 flats, then that £109,500 purchase price could be a real steal. Not quite daylight robbery. And this could be one Italian job with a happy ending.
Well, we'll see you next time for more interesting auction lots.
See you then.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
If the programme has inspired you to buy a house at auction, visit our website at bbc.co.uk/lifestyle to discover more auction tips from our experts.
each other and said, you know, I think this is the guy for us.
The builder quoted 81 grand to add a large kitchen diner, extend 2 bedrooms and add an ensuite.